right, welcome to the FluoriTech Complete Test demo. I'm gonna be running a THCA demo for you right now. And with that, we have two components. We have our complete test unit that's gonna be running the demo. I don't know if you can see from the camera, but the components are inside here. And then we have our test kits in which we have prepared in order to run the demo. So what we're doing is we are looking for some THCA potency from some purchased weed. I believe we're using Caliber today. So as we go, I'm gonna explain what we've done just to Fisher Price everything and make it extremely easy for the viewer to understand. So right now, we're just gonna go in the software. We're gonna run test. The strain, I believe, like I said, is Caliber. Or is it Lemon Haze? Doesn't really matter right now. Grow cycle, dried and cured. And cured, location, don't know, batch, don't know, test notes, whatever your test notes might be. And then we are going to move on with the test. So as you can see on the screen here, it says skip CBDA test or begin test. Because we know that there is little to no CBDA or CBD in the sample, we're gonna skip the CBDA test. And then you're gonna get a pop-up that says, if you have CBDA, it's gonna throw off your results. We know we don't, so we're gonna go right through here. All right, the first step in measuring the THCA potency is entering the mass, or the sample mass. So what I have done off camera is I use this mortar and pestle to grind out some sample. And the reason we use a mortar and pestle is because it's easier to clean than a grinder, and you do not get any trichome loss, so it's not gonna throw up your results. Now, I ground out some sample and then I measured it into this test tube using a scale. I measured out 101 milligrams. Now, on this, enter the value of the sample mass. You can be between 95 and 105 milligrams, and the unit and the software will do some creative math to calculate the potency. So I've measured out 101 milligrams in here, then I've combined it with an extract solution, and then I have vortexed it for 5 minutes to strip the cannabinoids off the plant matter and create an extract solution. And then I've used a fancy French press to separate the plant matter from the extract solution. And that is really what we're gonna be using. That cannabis soup is what we're gonna be using to measure the potency. We have 101 milligrams. We're gonna move on to our next step. And our next step is where we're gonna actually start running the test. So we are going to take our cuvette. Our cuvette is where everything is going to be mixed around and the potency is gonna be measured. And at the bottom, there's a stir bar that's gonna rotate at 1,000 RPMs in order to keep the sample homogeneous. We're gonna place that into the unit, and then we are off running. So our next step is to take 1 pipette of this extract solution and place it into a THCA intermediate solution. We are reducing the extract's potency by putting it into that solution. Because the complete test measures in parts per billion, it's incredibly specific, so we are being incredibly specific. The important part when pipetting is to be incredibly careful and meticulous with how you're operating the pipette. So, with the pipette, there's 2 stopping points, 1 and 2. 1 is when the yellow line kind of hits the blue, and 2 is all the way down. So in order to suck up the liquid, it's down to the first stop and up. In order to expel the liquid, it's all the way down. And best practice is always extract the liquid once and then expel it, pull the pipette out of the liquid, and then extract again. What this does is it creates a bond at the tip of the pipette and does not allow the material to drip out, or the sample to drip out. So we have combined our extract with our intermediate solution, and we're gonna set that aside for now. And on the software screen, you're gonna notice that I'm gonna skip the agitation timer. We've done that already. So what we just did was we added 1 pipette worth of the sample tube to THCA tube 3. That's that, we've done that. We're gonna move on to the next step here. The next step is adding THCA tube 1 into the cuvette, and then adding 1 pipette of THCA tube 2. So that is the entirety of tube 1 into the cuvette. And the big thing here is to make sure that as much liquid, all the liquid from the tube ends up into the cuvette. Again, it's an incredibly specific test, and you want to make sure that you are doing everything you can to remove all human error. So next, we're adding 1 pipette of THCA tube 2. This is the special dye that we've developed that bonds to the THCA molecules, the carboxylate molecules, and when hit with a fluorescent light, it glows, and that reading is what gives us our potency. So we're going to take 1 pipette of that. And again, every time I pipette, I'm actually taking the pipette twice just in order to avoid any drips. And then I'm going to expel all of that into the cuvette, and I'm going to begin the test. So the reason that we run a test with just the dye and the buffer solution initially is we're creating a baseline to measure the final reading against. Because I've been handling cannabis, because of potential externalities, we may have gotten a couple carboxylate molecules into the buffer solution, into the cuvette, you never know. So what this does is the dye is going to bond to any of the carboxylate groups in the buffer solution, and then the machine is going to zero it out and take that as its baseline reading. This takes about a minute to do. All right, so that measurement is taken. Next step is to add 1 pipette of that extract solution that's combined with the intermediate solution into the cuvette, and then we're going to take our final reading. So, as always, going to do this twice in order to avoid dripping. I'm going to add that pipette into the unit, and then we're going to begin the test. So after this is done, we'll have our reading. The reason we're measuring 1 cannabinoid at a time is because it allows us to be more accurate than some of the other things on the market that might give you an entire array at once. In measuring 1 at a time, we can increase our accuracy by a substantial percent relative to the strength of the cannabis. So we have about 33 seconds remaining on this test. When that's done, we'll see our results. All right, so we are finished. So we're gonna save those results and we're gonna go to them. We are looking at a THCA concentration of 8.5, and on the packaging here, we have a THCA concentration of around 9. So that does make a lot of sense. When was this packaged? That kind of thing. You can get some THCA decarb. So the biggest thing is when you see these results and when you're testing over time, what you can do is you can make sure you're cropping at the right time at peak THCA potency. You can be looking for deficiencies in your grow room by testing multiple areas of your grow room, deficiencies in outdoor crops, or where your most effective plants are. We have clients using these for phonetic hunts so that they can identify their strongest genetics and so that they can, of course, increase their revenue over time. But these are kind of the main uses that we're identifying for the complete test unit. It's just that idea of always knowing and understanding your product, and again, validating third-party results. In Canada and in the US right now, you're always gonna have to go to a third party to get those COAs, but you need to have something in-house and able to validate that those are the correct results. We have seen drastic swings in testing in third-party labs using the same cannabis on a week-to-week basis because their SOPs might not be really nailed down. The user of the HPLC that they're using might be different from week to week. So if you can't validate the results that they're giving you, you can't ensure that you are maximizing the quality and revenue of your crop. Thank you for watching the THCA potency testing video. If that was interesting to you, you can request a quote or request to speak to one of us in person. And if you're interested in more compliance testing, then there's another video that you can watch that is CBD and THCA compliance for mostly hemp.